Hello and welcome to Unbroken, the podcast with me, Madeleine Black, where I am passionate about sharing people's stories because I love the power that comes from sharing stories. I think there can be so much healing, and these are all stories that will motivate you, inspire you, but more importantly, bring you hope. So today I know you will love my guest. It's kind of, we were talking just before, she has actually interviewed me, so it's nice that the tables are turned today. Today I'm going to interview Ella Dove. She is a journalist and author and trustee of the Limbless Association. In 2016, she lost her right leg below the knee following a freak running accident, tripping over while out for a jog. Since then, she has been on a mission to improve knowledge and awareness of amputation, trauma and disability through her writing, charity campaigns and speaking events. She is passionate about emphasising the importance of finding positivity through adversity, resilience and the healing power of writing. There is hope after trauma. There is light through the dark. It can and it will get better. Ella, welcome to the show. So lovely to see you here. How are you?
Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So the very first question that I ask all of my guests is that what does the word unbroken mean to you?
So I think for me, there's a sort of physical side and a mental side. Obviously, the physical side for me is I'm an amputee, and I was broken in terms of physically when I lost my leg, but now I have healed and I'm unbroken in that respect. And then the more sort of psychological side is about that inner strength and that resilience that you kind of cultivate when something really traumatic or awful happens, and sort of finding that strength through adversity, I guess.
Absolutely. So could you just tell us what life was like before you had this freak accident?
Yeah, sure. So I was 25 the year it happened in 2016. So I had a very hectic social life. I'm a journalist, so I was often out at networking events. I was actually out most nights of the week having dinner with friends and things like that. I was fairly active. I'm not the most sporty person, but I would go to the gym and I would occasionally go for a run. I'm sure more about that later. But yeah, it was a very kind of hectic pace of life, and I was barely at home, and yeah, just always on the go, really.
As your granny would say, it sounds like you're burning the candle at both ends.
She did and does say that to me, yeah.
That's what my granny used to say. So can we talk about that day when you did have this really weird accident?
Yeah. So what happened was I was out for a jog with my sister who was training for a half marathon. So she is a lot more sporty than me. And I sort of said, oh, okay, I'll go with you just to support you. And we went out just near our home in East London along a canal path, only for probably about half an hour. And then we were on our way back and we were about 5 minutes from my flat, which kind of made it all the more frustrating, actually, when I tripped over just on a flat path, as a lot of us do, tripping over our own feet. But what was different about this is that I knew straight away, as soon as I felt, that I couldn't get up again and that my right leg was at a funny angle. And obviously the pain was really, really severe.
But I imagine at that point you just thought it was broken, or you
Yes.
had done some damage, yes.
Yes, definitely. And I'd never broken a bone before. So I'd shut my little finger in a door when I was at university. But apart from that, I'd never broken a bone before. So I kind of had nothing to compare it to, that level of pain. And obviously it was excruciating, but I think I just thought, oh, this must be what it feels like. To break a bone. But we had to wait for somebody to come along who could call an ambulance for us, because neither of us had brought our phones with us. That's something that, if I can say anything to people listening, take a phone if you go for a run. We didn't have our phones with us, so we had to wait for somebody to come along, and a man came along and phoned an ambulance. But then he hung up and said he had a train to catch and that he had to leave, which was obviously really, really shocking. And my sister was kind of begging him to stay with us because she obviously didn't want to leave me. So then we had to wait for somebody else to then come along and call another ambulance. And thankfully they stayed with us and went to the main road and flagged down the ambulance. But I mean, I can't tell you how long I was lying there for, because I think trauma does funny things to the brain and kind of blocks certain elements out. the answer that I always say is that you cope because you have to cope, because you have no other choice. You have
Well,
to.
you do have a choice. Your choice was to, not embrace it and to not do what you've done and to lead a much smaller life. But you didn't choose that. You chose to accept, this is now my cards. This is what life has dealt me, and I need to live it.
Yeah, no, that is true. I think there's coping with it, and then there's embracing it, isn't there? So yeah, I suppose they are different things. And my therapist, after about a year after the accident, I suddenly realized, okay, I need to talk to someone, because I was kind of experiencing mild sort of PTSD symptoms. I was having flashbacks and like horrible dreams, and
That's not mild, that is PTSD.
that okay, that is PTSD.
I am a therapist as well.
So I spoke to my therapist, and she was telling me about kind of acceptance, and obviously the different stages of grief, and how acceptance isn't about kind of liking, wanting, or approving what's happened. And she said you can still be sad and still be in that place of acceptance, and that was something that really resonated with me, actually, and something that I try and kind of hold on to now, because the bad days are few and far between now when it comes to my accident. I will occasionally, I think it's probably linked to when I'm sort of stressed or anxious about something else, I will occasionally still have that dream where I have to relive the accident, and it's like I'm sort of watching it happen again. So I do still have that, but it's very rare now. But I think I've kind of learning about kind of acceptance and how the mind works has definitely been a big part of what's helped me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say how the mind works, because one of your videos the other day was how you literally would fall out of bed every morning because you kind of forgot that you only had 1.5 legs now, and you would just went to stand on your 2 legs and there wasn't the second foot there.
Yeah, and I think that's common for amputees, particularly in the early days. You kind of go to sleep and forget that you're an amputee. I think your brain takes a while to adapt to that, because of course I had 25 years with 2 legs. So I imagine it's different for amputees who are born with their amputations, or who have them as very young children or babies. But yeah, for me, I still remember what it was like, to have 2 legs. And when I talk about it now, I can still feel my right foot, or where my right foot should be.
So you've written 1 book. Is there another book in the pipeline? Are you working on something now?
I am, yes. It's not about amputees. It's a completely different novel, not linked to 5 Steps to Happy. I wanted to kind of prove that I am not a one-trick pony, as it were. So in some ways, this one feels like it's my first proper book, because it's not tied in with my own life story. It is made up. I mean, obviously aspects are drawn from different emotions and things I've seen, but it is kind of made up in the sense of it's not something I've personally experienced. I don't have a publisher for it yet, so I'm waiting. So I don't know how much more I can say at this stage, but watch this space, I guess.
Watch this space. And just before we end up, could you give us maybe a few tips or advice, things that really helped you on the dark days? What really got you through?
Actually, there was one thing that my auntie, who is a physiotherapist, really helped me with, which was she gave me a tiny little notebook, no more than the size of a kind of post-it note. And she said, if you've got worries, this was really at the beginning when I was in hospital, right at the beginning. And she said, if you've got worries, write them down on here. And then I want you to look at them and kind of acknowledge them. And then I want you to rip out the bit of paper and just screw it up, throw it away somewhere. And it was such a physical thing, and it actually really helped. It sounds so simple, but I found it really cathartic, and it really helped me to sort of kind of like process all my worries and come to terms with them in a way, and just sort of starting to think about what I could control and what I couldn't control, and also writing down small achievable goals. So I had a list of longer term goals, such as go on holiday with my friends, go on a plane again, do my commute to work. I had things like that, but then I also had things like use this, go up and down a set of stairs, or you know, manage to kind of get to the bathroom and back on my own. You know, right from the very beginning, I had longer term and shorter term goals, and so having a small thing to focus you and something that you can accomplish. Obviously, everybody loves ticking off a list, and
Yes.
that sense of accomplishment when you manage to achieve something, and that you can find that in the small everyday things, not, you know, not only the kind of bigger life goals.
And I think what you said there is such an important place to end with. Focus on what you can control and what you can do, rather than focus all that you might not have anymore, but focus on what you can do. So, Ella, I just want to thank you so much for coming on to Unbroken, the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you this time. Thank you for being a guest.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.